This is called a PM check, and PM stands for Preventative Maintenance. The meter is designed to do testing in a sequential manner. So it says, if you got a bad battery, I don't want you to continue to run the test, I want you to fix the battery, then go to the next step. This is a very high level, very quick and efficient test that says, I'm going to check both the cranking and charging system all at one time so that as that truck leaves, you know without a shadow of a doubt that your electrical system's in good shape and it's ready, should go to the next PM. First thing I'm going to do is turn the tester on. Screen will come up. I'm going to hit enter, and the very first cursor says PM check. So I'm going to hit enter. It asks me how many batteries. I look down here, I have 4 batteries. So I would put 4, knowing how many batteries is there. That's critically important because the meter knows what kind of load it's going to apply to that battery pack. So if you enter the wrong number, then it's going to see results that does not match. So it's critically important you do answer the right questions. I'm going to hit enter. It says connect the large leads to the battery. So I'm going to set the meter down, and I'm going to look at my battery pack, and I'm going to go as far apart as I possibly can. So I've got my leads spread across that battery pack as much as possible. You want to measure all the voltage drops across the contacts and all the wires. So as far apart as you possibly could give gives you a more accurate test. As I hit continue, it says connect the small leads to the alternator. These are your remote sense leads. These are not fused. So what you want to make sure you always do is connect them into the tester before you hook these up to power. So I'm going to take the leads and I'm just going to throw them on the other side of the engine. And then I'm going to hook my positive to the positive lead. Remember, that's a 12 volt potential. Then I'm going to take my ground, and since this is a case grounded alternator, I'm just going to ground to the case of the alternator. Hit Y. Right now it's loading the battery. When the meter turns on the load, current will flow up the red through the tester, through all those resistor ribbons at the top of the meter, back to ground, full circle. So always remember, when you have electrical flowing in a circuit, it's always a circle. So wherever current comes from, that's where it has to go back. So by the way we hooked it up, we're pulling current out of all 4 of these batteries, and we're measuring what that voltage dropped to during that test. Now it tells me to start the engine and rev to govern speed. As it starts the truck, you will now see current flow from all 4 of the batteries through the positive cable to the starter. And while it's starting, the same amount of current will go back to all the negative batteries. So when you're doing this, it's just, again, it's a full circle. You're saying, what is the voltage at the batteries? And this might be a little hard to understand, but since there's no output at the alternator, where we hook up the small leads, positive ground on the alternator, that's the same as hooking up the leads to the starter when there's no current flow. So it sure beats crawling underneath the truck and trying to get your cables on the starter, because that's very difficult to do. If, let's say, it had a loose connection, corroded connection, had bad cable on the starter, it would have come back in and said, ooh, you have to retest. So instead of saying pass, it would have said you have to retest because the meter has seen something that looked out of the norm. Run it up against the government speed. Now we're going to let it go down to about 1,000 RPM. So the alternator turns on. Again, remember, when I started the truck, that's probably as discharge you get the batteries because you've taken a lot of energy out to start the truck. So the alternator is basically going full field. The tester looks at 2 things. It looks at what the voltage is at the alternator versus the voltage of the big cables on the battery. So that tells us what our voltage drop is. The second thing the tester does, it looks at what kind of ripple we're seeing out of the alternator. Now, ripple is defined as, if you look at an oscilloscope, how high the RMS ripple is of that alternator. We know if it goes over a certain level, there's something wrong with the alternator. You can see that the battery pack passed, the starter passed, and the alternator. So you are completely done with this test. I've just checked all of the charging and cranking systems from the comfort of the seat.